Welcome to Curiosity on the Move, where we prove it's never too late to learn something new. I'm Lee, and I'm on a mission to try things I've always wondered about and to take you along for the ride. The world is full of skills, sports, hobbies, and adventures just waiting for curious minds like ours. And here's the bonus. Learning new things isn't just fun. It's one of the best ways to keep our brains healthy and engaged as we age. So whether you're looking for a new passion, a way to meet people, or just want to keep that mental sharpness, you're in the right place. So I'm going somewhere a little different today. I was able to get a chance to attend a rehearsal of a new musical called Happyland. It's being produced by a local attorney, Rob Turkowitz, as well as a CFC professor, Dr. Elijah Siegler. It's a musical about true events at the KKBE synagogue here in Charleston, culminating in a lawsuit in 1846 involving two factions of KKBE over the installation of an organ. But it goes deeper than that. It goes to the profound cognitive dissonance, this conundrum of holding two contradictory ideas at once and just living with them both. And that message still resonates today. So while I was attending the rehearsal, I had a chance to speak to the director, Linda Eisen, the dramaturg, Robin Shuler, and one of the actors, Langley Cornwell. And frankly, I didn't know what a dramaturg was. So looking it up, it is a literary and theatrical consultant who works within a theater, opera, or film company. They're responsible for researching, editing, adapting, and interpreting scripts while ensuring historical accuracy and thematic cohesion. I have always been fascinated by theater, be it stage or on television. The thought of just being on a set, all the costumes, the rehearsals, all the props that are used. And I was really curious about what it would be like to direct and bring a script to life, develop those characters, tell the stories. So I dabbled very briefly in high school. I had an acting class in ninth grade, and I loved it. It was a lot of fun, but they brought in a group who was looking for some young students to participate just as background actors tossing a frisbee. I apparently have absolutely no skill in throwing a frisbee. It was a dismal experience, but it was a lot of fun. Unfortunately, we moved right afterwards, and in my new high school, acting was not something that I ended up picking back up. So while it was a blast while it lasted, it was not something that stuck with me. But I am still highly curious about the theater, and honestly, I would get back up on stage in a heartbeat if ever given the chance. And the actor I spoke with, Langley, had some wonderful advice that I actually am going to take. And so maybe you'll see me out there someday soon. So you'll first hear from Linda, who I had the chance to sit down with and ask her all about how she brought this script to life. And you've directed a lot of Charleston theater, but what makes Happyland different from anything you've taken on before?
What makes Happyland different is, well, it's an original piece, which is thrilling and terrifying because there is no template for it. So every single aspect of it has to be created and decided, and then you throw in that we are performing it in a non-traditional theater space and what that means and all of those things. It's also an absolutely glorious piece of theater. The composer, Toby, I'm sure that Rob mentioned to you, is unbelievable. in terms of his talent and his ability. So when my friend Robin invited me to direct it, I was honored, and I was curious, and I had a lot of questions. And what was this going to be about, and how is this going to work? It's about an organ. That doesn't sound all that interesting, but boy, the history, and the more that I got into it, and the more that I spoke. So we have an opportunity to create as we go. And one of the reasons I think Toby's work is so good is he is open to changes and other people's ideas, and he just wants it to be as good as possible. So if something's not working, we could call him on the way home from rehearsal and say, you know, that's just not working. Can we change this around a little bit? Can we flip that line? Can we move this scene there instead of here? Which is an incredible thing to be able to do, and to have. As I may have mentioned earlier, when you are doing a play that's already a published play, and you purchase the rights, you are legally obligated to do it exactly as written.
Sure.
You can't decide, oh, I think it would make more sense if I put it this way, or switch that around, or all of those other things. And the other thing about Happyland is that the themes of it, although it takes place in the 1840s, the themes of family, of assimilation, immigration, and very much cognitive dissonance that people can purport to hold this set of beliefs, whatever these beliefs may be, religious, political, social, familial. They all do kind of get tied up, yet have their actions do something else. And that is very much what we're seeing today. There are parts of the play that when we get to them and we just go, wow, that could have been written last week or said by someone else there. So it's even though it is a play specifically about the birth of Reform Judaism and the church versus state legal battle, what it really is about is wanting to belong, and what are people willing to do in order for that to happen. It's really a universal story, and that's incredibly appealing to work on.
That's awesome. I'm really excited to see it. I am, so much that when I've been talking to Rob and Elijah so far, it just sounds really fascinating. I mean, the story, but it definitely the theme of that. Because it's true. I mean, Charleston is one of these places, there's 100 hidden stories around here, but this one, I think, is true to times, for sure. And I saw on the website this is considered a developmental production. So what is that exactly, and what are you watching for during this run? Is what, six shows total? And what are you looking for, and then what do you then project it will become in the future?
Right, so developmental, it just means that this is not going to be the last version. It's a fully produced, fully realized evening of theater, but that has been tailored to the space that we have. But what Toby is going to be doing, and we're all going to, of course, chime in, but it's Toby's, it's Toby's baby. All right, which parts of this do I really want to keep? What do I want to add? What would this look like with a larger cast? What would this look like in a different space? So we are, this is really one of the first steps. I mean, we did do a reading a year ago, which was just a staged reading. Actors with scripts, singing, saying the lines. Toby did a second reading in New York where he is. And after that reading, he made major changes just based on that. So We'll see. We'll see what happens next with this. I mean, on some level, art is never finished. There's always something that could be changed or tweaked or altered in some way. But this is, we want to give Toby what he needs to take this to whatever the next step is, because it is he's a rare talent, and we know that this is just the beginning of Happyland. This is not the end of it.
That's awesome. Do you have any advice for anyone who's looking to go down that path, or just acting, just here in the Charleston area? Like, how do they break into this sort of industry here?
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of theater of very different levels. There's, theater for people that are starting out. There's theater for people who have been doing it for a long time. I would, say, take classes, take improv classes with Theater 99, take acting classes, find out what the theaters are, and put yourself out there and try it. There are opportunities for people at all levels, at all stages. And theater, as opposed to film and television, the opportunities really only increase as you get older. And it's, you don't age out of it the way you do in dance, for instance, or modeling, or other things that people might do. I mean, any opportunity for people to be creative is only going to enhance everything else in your life.
Next, I spoke with Robin Shuler, the dramaturg, and asked her a little bit more about the creation of Happyland and the themes surrounding it.
How did it become a musical, you asked?
How did it become a musical?
2 years and change ago, Elijah Siegler and Rob Turkowitz came to me. We're old friends, connected by the synagogue, all members of KKBE, and they said they'd been working on this project and wanted my input, and could I help? And then we sat down and I looked at it and I said, let me take this home, and I read it, and I said to them, this could be wonderful, but you need someone to write it for you, because they'd been working on writing it for a really long time, and it was very it was not cohesive. A lot of different musical styles. Neither one of them is a musician. So I said, we need to hire somebody to turn it into a musical. They made it a musical. It was already a musical. At the time, it was, the name of it was Poznansky, the Musical. I think with some exclamation marks. And so I said, let me look around. And I didn't really need to look around. I knew exactly who I was going to call. Toby Singer, who was the music director at KKBE. My Lord, he must have been 23 years old. Oh, okay. He was a baby. And I was song leading there at the time. So I would play my guitar and sing and lead services and music for like religious school, like kids services, holidays, stuff like that. And he was the music director. And also at that time, he was a composer already. I knew he was a composer. And he's done several projects, and he and I have been close ever since he left. And when he was there, and even after he left. And our synagogue still sings his music in services. We still use his compositions, so it was easy. It was like, we need to hire Toby. And I contacted Toby and said, can you do this? And how much will it cost? And he told me, and I told them, and here we are.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it is. I was happy to be able to do it.
So were you a musical director there at some point as well?
I was.
Okay.
I was musical director there. I could not give you the years, but I retired a few years ago.
So what is it kind of like to say, I know this hasn't yet been done in the sanctuary
It's brand new.
Right, so this is something that you haven't, but can you imagine what it is going to be like when you're sitting in that sanctuary and watching that musical about events that actually occurred right there?
I have been imagining it since I saw it the first time, because I think it's so cool that we can do it in the room where it happened. To be able to do it in that room with that organ playing, I mean, the whole play is, the crux of it is the installation of that organ and what happened because of it, all the things that led up to it, all the things that happened after it. And I love that organ. We have a wonderful friend, Ryan Pagels, who's going to be playing the organ for the show. And I was talking to him the other day. It was his first time playing it. And I told him, when I was music director there, I made sure that organ was played once a month at services because it's part of who we are. So I've always loved it. And it gives me goosebumps when I hear it. And to know that we're doing this show in there, I have been imagining it ever since they came to me a couple years ago. Like, I'm so excited. It's going to be amazing. Yeah, I hope everybody that comes to see it feels that, that wonderful, just perfect synchronicity of time and space and music and that room. And not just, like, I know members of KKBE, I know reading the script, it has deeply affected my family, reading the script and listening to the music. My daughter and I just ugly cried in the car after we finished listening to it on a road trip. And I hope that it affects everybody that way, especially the people who live in Charleston, not just tourists and visitors who are here for the festival or here to do whatever. Like, this is, it is a story of our time as well.
Right, and that is the perfect segue, because that was exactly what my next question, being in there in that realm and listening to this history and having that history brought to life, but that whole story, how does that resonate today?
Hugely, because what they did at the time, at that time, there were more Jews in Charleston, South Carolina, than anywhere else in this little itty-bitty baby country. More Jews in Charleston, South Carolina, and that is, most people don't know that. And so the fact that these people were drawn to this state, which was so open to religious diversity, I mean, it's in our state constitution, it's insane. What they gave up to become a part of the community here, and how they had to change themselves, what anyone gives up to assimilate and to fit in. So back then, that was a thing, and it is still a thing, and to me it ties it all together, as well as what those Jews did. Some of them wasn't great, and there were slaveholders. We have slaveholders. KKBE just put up a memorial to the slaves that built that structure. And it wasn't until we discovered evidence of that up in the attic during a renovation in 2019, and our Rabbi Stephanie Alexander, also happens to be a justice warrior in Charleston, and you put those together, and it was like, why haven't we done this sooner? But we did it, and we acknowledged it. So this show really acknowledges sort of that cognitive dissonance of how do we assimilate into this community while retaining what we've brought from where we're from without losing our souls, and I think every human being today holds all of those contradictions in their hearts, and some people can't handle it, and they try to pretend that things didn't happen. And I love that this play, that our synagogue, that they embrace that, just that how how you live with those things, you know? The kids today say holding space. We're holding space for those things in our heart, you know? So I love that. It's hard. It isn't easy. The play is hard. This play is not easy. It's beautiful, it's stunning, but it's hard, you know? It's devastating. It's gonna devastate some people in the best way possible.
And last but not least, I had a chance to talk to Langley Cornwell, one of the actors in this production, about how she got involved and what advice she would give to someone like me who is perhaps maybe a little curious about theater and how to get involved in the Charleston area.
How would someone go about maybe in the Charleston area kind of getting involved in this sort of thing?
Right. Well, there's a lot of great things happening in Charleston, a lot of great groups that you can join. And I recommend everybody doing that. And I also recommend everybody taking acting classes, because that's when you network and that's when you meet the people that you need to know, and you just learn things through talking to people in the business. And that's how it happened for me. But then ultimately the goal is to get an agent, and then the agent goes about finding you jobs to audition for. And ever since COVID, and even before COVID, for Southeast actors, we do self-tapes. So we don't have to be in the room with a casting director, so we don't have to do a lot of traveling. We can tape from, for instance, in my case, I have a studio in my house. Just a little bit about me, but I did theater, musical theater, and just theater in general as a kid. I was a kid actor and did bus and truck tours, and then went to college, did it afterwards, and then after that quit and went into corporate, because I figured I wasn't gonna make it to Broadway. And so I thought, well, I might need to make a living. And so
What kind of corporate job did you have?
I was in advertising and marketing.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and which was, it satisfied my creative nature, and but it was corporate enough to pay the bills.
Sure.
And I had a good career, and I did that for 30 years. And then when I retired, I really didn't think much about getting back into acting. And then it was circumstantial, really. It's just one thing led to another, and then I don't know, it just happened. It just happened by way of dominoes, and I couldn't be happier. I call this my second act career.
That's great.
Yeah, it's because it's true, and I kind of did a need to do, and now I'm getting to do a want to do.
Right. And I think that's how I feel on this stage.
Isn't that
I'm
true?
still doing my need to do, and I'll be doing it for a number of years, but the transition has started where this idea of getting out and doing the things I want to do.
Yeah, you can see it, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so
yes.
you know what you're working for.
It's fabulous.
Oh, it's the best. I feel so tickled and grateful and blessed to be in the position I'm in. I really am. I didn't even dream it could be this good.
That's great.
Yeah.
So I know you talked about getting, taking acting classes and getting an agent but for someone like me who really I maybe took an acting class in high school.
Sure.
What advice other than those things would you give someone who might be looking to do some small, maybe local productions? I know Charleston is filled to the brim with theaters, and there's probably all sorts of variety of groups, but what would be kind of some good advice to tell someone?
The easiest thing to do is to check on the websites of all of the local theaters. Footlight, Dock Street, Pure, South of Broadway, Threshold, any theater company. Just Google theater companies in Charleston. Get on their websites. Figure out when their auditions are happening, and this is if you want to get into the theater aspect, and go out, audition, and even if you don't book it, I never worry about not booking something, because I did when I was a kid, but when I was a kid, I just had a sense of desperation, and I think that shows, and I think that people don't want to cast somebody or book somebody that's desperate. So I've totally changed my attitude about that, and I always feel like something better's going to come, and there's a reason I didn't book it. So I have a more, I guess, holistic approach about it. But anyway, so I say go out for everything that interests you. Don't sweat it if you don't book it, because you got your face in front of somebody. You're networking, you're meeting new people, you're getting to know other actors. And if you don't book it, volunteer, usher, start seeing all the shows. But a guy in this cast, he's targeting another theater company, and so he's been volunteering there. And then finally, the guy who runs the company said, why don't you read for me? And let me see what you can do. I really recommend doing that.
That's great.
Yeah. And
That's great advice.
Yeah, and so that's for the theater. And for the film, I would say, and this is the route I took to get back into it, check out opportunities to be an extra. And I know that other actors that might listen to this will say, no, but I couldn't recommend it enough. I think it's a great way to get on set, see what a real set looks like, how it's run, who's who, you learn set etiquette, and there's a whole bunch of sitting around when you're an extra, like a whole bunch. And so there's nothing really to do but talk to each other. And that's how I got my agent, and I'm tickled, and I've had her now for 8 years, but if I was an extra, and somebody said, hey, my son's agent is looking for people your age. Why don't you submit? And I was like, why don't I submit? And I did.
That's great. I'm all about that. Just the go for it.
I'm all about the go for it
stuff
too.
That no matter what you think, you have to try, because if you don't,
well, you'll never know.
You'll never know, exactly.
That old adage that I have always liked about you miss 100% of the shots you don't take.
Yeah.
That I live by.
I cannot thank Rob and Elijah enough for letting me come into a rehearsal, for organizing the interviews with Linda, Robin, and Langley. And to Linda, Robin, and Langley, a huge thank you for taking the time to sit with me and answer my questions. I learned so much, and I had such a blast at the rehearsal. I absolutely cannot wait to go see this production, and I certainly encourage everyone to do so as well. You can find all the information you need about the production at happylandmusical.com. The show is running from June 4th through the 14th. There are 6 shows. It's being held at KKBE, which is located at 90 Hasell Street. All these folks have put in a huge amount of work. It is such an interesting story with themes that definitely hold true today. So I encourage you all to go out and see it. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I actually will not be back in 2 weeks as I normally am. I am going to take a short summer break for the month of June, but I will be back on July 7th. As usual, if you have any comments or anything you would like me to look into, please contact me. You can DM me through my Instagram, Curiosity on the Move. Thank y'all so much, and you'll hear from me again in July.